Watch, we saw that with John Doomsday against Barncat, where Barncat obviously has about almost a foot on him, and Doomsday went right after him, was able to take care of business and finish in 3. When I look at the size difference, I see a lot of advantage for someone being a little shorter to go in to have the mobility and able to pitch those joints a little bit harder.
Right. I would definitely be able to get under her easier.
Now, how are you enjoying some of the celebrity going on right now? We know you've been contacted. We were contacted. It's got to feel pretty good.
Well, I live in Red Bluff, and it's a very small town. So I've had like an interview, like a 10-question interview and stuff, and I write my own articles pretty much for my local paper. So I haven't really been touched by too much celebrity as far as that goes.
Well, I think when everybody watches you go into Kathy Win, Lose, or Draw, people are going to start asking more questions about who the heck is Avery? We never heard of her before. Then, bam, they go online, they start reading about more what you've done and as far as your training, your background. It's kind of an interesting story you've got going on. I'm still drawn to the fact of, dehydrated, kidneys shut down, still finished it, you lost, but the fact is you nearly died.
Right. It was traumatic. When I was in the process of my kidneys shutting down and I was just vomiting and I couldn't keep anything down and I felt weak and I thought, wow, I probably have a brain injury right now or something. I thought, is it really smart for me to keep going with this sport? But when I got pumped back full of fluids and I got healed up and I thought about it, it's like when I got the go-ahead, it was the right thing to do. It's just like, I feel like I have to. This is the dream fight.
Yeah, there was a lot. We had Molly Hessel on, and she was like, she wanted to fight her. Terry LaRosa, one of our faves, wanted to fight her. Obviously Shayna. Everybody out there had wanted to do this Kathy Long fight for a long time, and you're the one that everybody is going to be looking at from the mixed martial art world, from the ladies to the men. And we know Big Tim Booch is heading out there to have his big fight as well. There's a lot of our favorites heading out there right now to watch this match. What are you seeing? Are you getting a lot of contacts from people saying we can't wait to see you out there? And it just seems like a giant pendulum right now for this big battle.
Online I do. I get a few hits from people. Oh, I can't wait. This is going to be great. But as far as locally, I keep my mouth shut because it seems like when I brag up a fight that I'm going to have, it invariably doesn't happen, so I jinx myself. So I'm just kind of keeping it low.
Yeah, low until it actually...
or something doesn't happen right. So I'm keeping my mouth shut, and I'm just going there, and I'm hoping for the best, and I just know it's going to be a great fight. I know it.
Now, we know a fighter is training their intensity level, and they sometimes hurt themselves while working through it. And other fighters train extensively cardiovascular as they get closer to the date. What they do is they still hit things as hard, do things as difficult, but as far as their opponents, they try to make sure and keep everything in place. A lot of times you could have an injury and be able to cover it up in a football game. On a wrestling match, you obviously can. In basketball, we've seen guys play with splints. But in mixed martial arts, you pretty much got to take care of yourself up to the fight. You have, 4 or 5 days left now, don't you?
Right. Absolutely. I'm extremely cautious the week before a fight. If I do sparring, it's light sparring. It's like, don't split me open. If I'm doing the grappling, it's like, don't bend my arm backwards or choke me too hard to where you're going to damage me. I need to have it all ready for her.
Now, there's a couple things we usually ask some of the wrestling coaches we get online, whether they're D1 or down to NIA. But, when you're training and working, it seems like a lot of athletes have gone away from doing a lot of heavy weights. They're more and less doing a lot of body pressing and body workouts, biometrics. Are you like a push-up, dip, and pull-up individual when you get ready for a fight and just visualize pulling her legs in, her arms in? Or how do you go about that?
Well, my coach, Mike Chu, has been working with me a lot with the traditional caveman-style workouts with the big old tractor tires, flipping those, dragging them, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
That climbing ropes, carrying wheelbarrows full of gravel, just real old school stuff, hitting a sledgehammer on the tire, that kind of stuff.
Actually, I think some of that stuff is new school now. We know that a lot of football teams up here in Detroit are going back to the tires. They're going back to dragging weights. They're going back to wheelbarrows. They're even doing sledgehammers and even axes. I just can't imagine a high school kid with an axe in his hand, but...
Scary.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? But they're doing it all over the place now and all over the countries. They're going back to a little old school. And if you're in the weight room, a lot of guys will start questioning, like, what are you working on? No, we're going to take a sledgehammer, go in the back, and start beating on this tire for a good 15-minute workout. Now, when people talk about cardiovascular and working out, take us through exactly what you're doing right now on like a Monday to set up for this fight.
Okay, what I'm doing is I'm doing round work on the treadmills. So I'll do like a 5-minute round of running as hard and fast as I can, and then I'll step off the treadmill for a 30-second break and hydrate myself. And I'll do that for as many rounds as I can get in.
And then from there, what do you do? Do you have a weight training? Do you, obviously, biometrics, we just talked about some of it. And as far as punching bags, sparring, stuff like that?
I have a sparring partner that I'm working with, and we try to get in like, up to 8 rounds of light sparring on one night and 8 rounds of grappling the next night. So
see, what's crazy to me as a listener is I love watching it. I, at one time, would have loved to have been a boxer, but getting hit in the head numerous times sort of turned me off on it. The bloody nose didn't bug me. None of the blood bugged me. It was the fact that I felt like I had cobwebs in my head after being rung a couple of times. But that got to me. But what was really interesting is that I trained very, very hard when I was boxing. Very hard. But when I look at what you all put yourselves through on hours a day in training, it's not, a movie training. This is for real, nut and bolts of, 5 o'clock in the morning, and then you finally quit about 7 p.m. at night. You eat, you drink, you slam some carbs, and the next morning you're up doing it all over again.
Yep. It's like a minimum of 3 hours a day of training.
That's just Now, how many people are going to join you up there for the big fight?
My husband is going to be in my corner, and my coach, Mike Chu, is going to be in my corner, and one of my former fighting buddies, Debbie Bonamini, is hopefully going to be in my corner.
Yeah, I mean, this is going to be such a showdown. I know that the prior to the Elite XC closing up, the women were actually drawing better than the men. Even the big name guys that were showing up. Kimbo Slice was showing some hurt with the Gina, the Cyborg, the fights that are coming on board. This might kick open as far as getting more women on cards all across this country and all across the world to start scheduling the fights again. It seems like there was a holding pattern for a good year from the contacts we've have. And right now, I think all eyes to see what happens in this fight, and you might just be part of something special for this next coming year.
I'm hoping, and you're right. It was like last year, it was so hard to get a fight. I couldn't get a fight last year. I had so many of them fall through for whatever reason. But this year, they've just been slamming. I've been getting one almost every other month. So it's like, when it rains, it pours. You got to take it when you can get it.
Absolutely, especially with what you're putting together. It seems in the mixed martial art world is when the tide comes, you got to hop on it. The thing that does sustain most fighters is the fan base. You all are the NASCARs of sports. In football and basketball, once you're done or you lose, the fans usually fall off and maybe wear the shirt and not even realize it. In NASCAR, I'm a big Dale Earnhardt fan. I don't know when the last race the guy won, but I still buy his stuff. But in mixed martial arts, once you get established, you're going to have fans for life, and you probably have a few and may not even know it. You're probably seeing some of it. Win, lose, or draw, you've got people following you.
Right. I definitely have my hometown behind me. They are always following my articles and praying for me and hoping that I don't get hurt and hoping that I do well. So I have my hometown following for sure. Nationally, I doubt it, but that's okay.
I think after this big fight...
Big fish in a small pond.
Well, I think with your personality and the fact that you've got your website up, you answer questions, you answered our questions, you're very approachable. I think it's going to be good for the sport to have you more involved and have more of these fights televised. We really do appreciate your time. We're going to ask after the fight to get you on win, lose, or draw. Is that okay?
That would be wonderful.
Awesome.
Definitely.
Avery, I want to say thanks for showing up, being so strong. We're going to make sure and link everything up and give you lots of love and support in this battle coming up, win, lose, or draw. We're going to keep track of you.
Thanks a lot, Bo. I appreciate the interview.
Oh, you're welcome. Avery Vilche. She's one of our favorites on the show, and we're going to keep tracking her down and make sure the links are up on our site and get all you 1.5 to tune in and pay for that fight.